it's a matter for him. They normally...
No, I said, do you think he should?
The reason you normally don't is because it's bad to publish allegations then not prosecute. So I probably think you shouldn't break with the usual practice.
The woman in the front here.
Can I just remind Lord Falconer that it was actually a CPS decision not to prosecute.
It was.
And when Mr Yates was asked about that, he wouldn't come straight out and say that he actually thought it should have been a prosecution. But it's the inference that most of us that are aware of how the police operate.
The police thought there should have been a prosecution?
That the police probably thought there should have been, but it was the CPS that didn't.
Well, I'm not quite sure what... I mean, so what conclusion does one draw? You're absolutely right.
The police thought they had a case, and the CPS...
And the CPS thought they didn't. So what conclusion does one draw from that?
What conclusion do you draw from that?
Well, my conclusion is that Mr Yates thought there was a case.
Yeah. And the prosecution thought...
I think, Maude, you're absolutely... I was actually in that committee sitting just a couple of rows back from him, and you can almost hear him biting his tongue during that proceedings, because he has been stopped saying what he wants to say. We've been having this investigation that's been going for I don't know how long, and at the end of it... 16 months. At the end of it, what do we know? Precisely nothing. I mean, that is simply outrageous. Either the police... I mean, Yates has actually got this file, which he is happy to publish, but he's not publishing it. And the committee, who were supposed to be investigating this in the first place, aren't doing it anymore because the police did it. So the public is left completely in the dark. And I think this is what brings it into... So you used the word whitewash. I think that's exactly what the public feel. That there's been a lot of investigation. Nobody seems to be caught. And they're not innocents, mind you. They always say we were cleared of this. Nobody's been cleared. There just wasn't enough evidence to prosecute. A very different thing.
The woman at the very back there.
My understanding is that there was a diary that was not admitted in evidence because it was supposedly hearsay, but it was completely condemning. So it smacks of cover-up, doesn't it?
I don't know. We're having a conversation based upon snippets. There's nothing to stop there being, for example, a journalistic investigation now.
Francis Maude.
Well, I like and respect Charlie Falconer a great deal, and too much, actually, to believe he's naive enough to mean what he said just now, when he said he didn't know what Commander Yates meant. It was very clear what he meant. He said he didn't receive full cooperation. Oh, do you mean Downing Street? It depends, he said, or something like, what do you mean by Downing Street? I think...
That's what he said.
I think it's perfectly clear what he meant was that he didn't get cooperation from Downing Street. I was chairman of the Conservative Party while this investigation went on. We gave absolutely full and uninhibited cooperation to the police, as our duty was required and as the police have readily
How many
acknowledged.
peerages was it alleged that you'd given away?
They were investigating one nomination, and they were very happy with the explanations that were given. But, I mean, I think to answer the question very directly, there is a loss of trust in the political parties and party funding, and there is this sense that there's a big donor culture, and we're really keen to change that. So we've proposed that there should be a cap on donations, whoever those donations are made by, whether by individuals or by organisations, and that must include the trade unions. And, you know, we've made great progress when Tony Blair, Charlie's flatmate, set up the Hayden Phillips Review 18 months ago. It was very clear then that the whole issue of union funding was on the table, was open for discussion. Sadly, not long after that, Tony Blair's authority began to fade away, and I'm afraid Gordon Brown hasn't quite got the bottle to take this on in the way that Tony Blair at his peak might have done. So I'm afraid we're not going to get, I hope I'm wrong, I hope we can get it, I'm afraid we're not going to get the consensus on really clearing up the big donor culture that has eroded public trust in party funding.
Okay. We've got a last question from Margaret Campbell, please. Margaret Campbell.
Is the government right not to impose a ban on smacking?
It's just been announced they've been considering this, and there's not going to be a ban in England and Wales on smacking children. And the Children's Commissioner, Sir Al Ainsley-Green, said it was a deeply disappointing decision. Maria Misra, what do you make of that?
I agree with him, really. I mean, I suppose the main argument against smacking is that it's unenforceable, and I think, in a sense, that doesn't matter, really. I think it's really about sending a message about complete intolerance of any violence. I mean, a lot of us, you know, in conversation with our peers, often feel like smacking them, but, I mean, we restrain ourselves.
I can feel it all night.
Right. But you know, the idea that there is one group in society, which is the parents of children, who are authorised to inflict violence on them, I find very curious.
The Act actually calls it mild smacking that's allowed.
Well,
but you can't cause bruising or grazes or scratches.
Well, I find that ludicrous, you know, the idea that there are different degrees of violence and they're going to be measured by the colour of your bruise. I mean, some people bruise more easily than other people. You know, I mean, are you going to encourage parents to start hitting their children with wet towels, you know, because it won't leave any marks? I mean, I think the government should simply, you know, there should simply be a law which says that, you know, we do not permit parents to smack their children.
Fraser Nelson?
It's funny, we had this debate in the Scottish Parliament when I was up there a few years ago, and even the Scottish Parliament, which bans anything you can pretty much name, didn't decide to ban smacking. So, yeah, I think it's right. I mean, are you going to have a spanking police coming around the houses, listening to the yelps of kids and going in there? It's pretty impractical, and it's actually nice to see the government having the chance to ban something and passing that chance up. Long may this continue.
OK, person up there on the right, far right, there you.
If they do impose a complete ban on smacking, then once children get old enough to sort of realise this law, then they can have pretty much ownership over their parents. As soon as the parents lay a finger on them, then they can just go out and
blackmail their
accuse
parents.
them. Yeah.
George Galloway, briefly if you would, because we are coming to the end.
Well, a little light spanking between consenting adults can sometimes be fun.
This is the hard
That was not the question, George.
I really don't think this is. I really don't. I'm getting Demob happy with it. I really don't think that big adults should be hitting small children. I just don't. I have never physically smacked any of my children. Just raising my eyebrow, never mind my voice, was enough. And I think if you have a good enough relationship with your children and they respect you, and they will not respect you, by the way, if you go around beating them, if they respect you, you can keep your children in order. So I think it was a mistake not to ban it.
Was it a missed opportunity, Francis Maude?
No, I don't think so. I think the government was right. I mean, most of my children are so old now that they'll much more likely to smack me than vice versa. And, you know, we all would love to live in a world where it never even arises, where we do have George's magnetic personality and authority, but, you know, just the sort of moving of one facial muscle will reduce a children's submissive docility. But sadly, real world isn't quite like that, But we should all aim not to have to smack our children, but sadly this does sometimes occur, and the government was quite right not to intrude into it.
Charles Falconer, was the Prime Minister right to allow this to happen?
I think he was, yes. I think it's the point that the person with the stripes over there made. If you ban smacking, there's a man. No, not him. The guy there.
Yes.
What he said was. He put it on saying children then get a hold of their parents. The idea that you criminalise great swathes of the country because they've smacked their children, and people who are jolly decent people from time to time smack their children.
Have you?
I'm afraid I have, yes, from time to time. So George is in the clear, but probably the rest of us aren't. Yeah. And the idea that you criminalise 63% of the parents in this country, I think, is utterly ridiculous.
Right. Okay. You don't criminalise cash for peerages, and you don't criminalise smacking
a cheap and discreditable sort of remark.
We've reached the end, I'm afraid, of question time for the week. Yeah. If you want to continue the debate, switch now to News 24, and there the issues that we've been discussing will be chewed over in the light of what you've said during the programme by the host of that programme, Chris Eakin. He's got with him Claire Palmer from Conservative Future and Alex Hilton, the political blogger and Guardian writer. Or equally, you can stay with BBC One for this week. If you want to watch a repeat of Question Time, there's a shorter version on News 24, 8:30 Saturday evening. My thanks to our panel here, to all of you who came to the Oxford Union to take part. It's Swansea next time for Question Time. 09011 114 411 is the number to call, or go to our website, bbc.co.uk/Question Time. Email questions there that you'd like to have us discussed. From all of us in Oxford, good night.